And we're back for another episode of Are We Content? Where I'm your host. They call me Mr. X indeed, but you can call me Chud. And with me, as always, is our resident skeptic, Moral Bob himself. And tonight we have a very special guest, Matthew from the Marvelous Old World YouTube channel, which is an incredible channel. Before you even listen to this, go check that channel out, subscribe, and start checking out his videos. Because if you want to dig into the old world, this guy has got an incredible collection of photographs to show you. And he is an architect, so he knows a thing or two about some of these buildings that we're looking at in those old photos. Matthew, how are you doing this evening?
What's up, man? I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. Yeah, today's a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah, just taking it day by day right now.
Yeah,
you be here with you guys.
You are in quite a situation. I'm really honored that you're here. I know that you're going to be starting treatment for cancer very shortly, and I really appreciate you being able to come on and spend some time with us. I'd like to start by telling you guys about an experience I had with the sky this week. As Bob very much knows, I sure like looking at the sky. And the other morning, I'll start by saying that I received a really heart-filled email from you, Matthew, that was sent not to me alone, but to several people. And you were explaining some of the things about your situation in your mental capacity and ability to handle these things that you're moving forward towards. And it really meant a lot. One of the things that I had just said to my wife the day before, because we're all fighting a little bit of sickness here, just some common sickness kind of stuff. I'm the only one who hasn't really gotten it. And she kept asking me, are you sick yet? Are you sick yet? And I said, no, I'm currently healing. I'm always healing. If I think I'm sick, it's because I'm healing right now. And then I read that, I was saying that the day before. I read that. And then I stepped outside to start my day. It's really early in the morning. I'd already seen this really bright, super white full moon that was just casting light down on everything. I go to leave. The moon's out of vision. I'm a little bummed. I get in the car. I start to leave. My windshield's a little too frosty, so I pull over in a church parking lot to let it warm up a little bit more. And bam, there's the moon down lower, yellow now instead of white, and much larger. So I let myself roam. I did not drive to work. I followed the moon. And that took me right out to the water. It took me out to an Indian reservation that's out here. And I was able to pull over and watch a now orange moon descend behind an island out in the bay there. And I watched the whole thing go all the way down, and it was amazing. Okay, now it's time to drive to work and, get into the matrix and start my job. I start pulling around on this reservation, and that island moves out of the way, and bam, there's the moon again. Now even bigger, more bright. It's so orange at this point. And I tell you, it also looked like it was pushing down from top and bottom and becoming an oval instead of the near perfect circle that it had been before. It's starting to squish almost. I didn't have an ability to pull over and watch at that time. But once again, back on the road. Gonna cut through here, and I'm gonna head back to the Matrix. And I come around to Bellingham Bay from the Lummi Indian Reservation, which is an amazing view on its own. But now the sun is just about to rise. I'm like, I can't do it. I cannot go to work. I have to pull over. I pulled over, I sat on a log, and I watched the sunrise over the bay. I got to see the sun, as I like to think of it. It's controversial with some people, but I watched the sun walk across the water. As that sun comes up and the light starts at the water closest to you, the higher the sun gets, it goes across the water. Some people compare that to Jesus walking on water, the sun walking on water, right? It's an incredible experience. If you ever have the opportunity to watch a sunrise over a large body of water, it's amazing. All this while, I have this amazing email that you had sent me, Matthew, resonating through my mind. And I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking about everything in the universe, everything except my job and except the things that truly don't matter to me. But I did make it through the day. And then I ended up being able to finish off that day by watching that moon rise again over the mountains on the other side from my property. And all that is incredible. But also on top of that, that was the day that in Europe at about noon my time, they experienced an eclipse. Remember, Bob, we were just talking about eclipses.
Yep.
We just saw a solar and I was saying, I'm pretty sure that means in 2 weeks there has to be a lunar. I looked it up while we were recording, and sure enough, on the 28th, there was one. That happened in between the time I watched that moon set almost twice. And then I watched it rise again with a sunrise in between. I did not go online that day or the next day. I felt I really needed to stay out of the matrix, so to speak, using the term broadly, obviously, of just the world that isn't real to me. And all of that was so much more profound to have the incredible words that you had written to so many people that morning, all the way down to you told the Alan Watts telling, was it a Buddhist story?
Yeah, Chinese fable.
A Chinese fable, where it was let's see, it started with the horse ran away.
Yeah,
everyone said bad luck. He said maybe. The horse returned with 5 wild horses. Good luck. He said maybe. His son rode one of the wild horses and broke his leg. Bad luck. He said maybe.
All right.
Then the leadership comes through to collect people to recruit for war. And they don't take his son because he has a broken leg. And they say, what good luck? And he says, maybe.
Right.
And it really shows you, we don't know what anything is as we approach it. We don't know. We can spend time. We can think about the future all we want and what is going to happen. If I do this, this happens. If I don't do that, this happens. All those kinds of things. But the answer is always maybe.
Yeah.
Always. Now, for you to be thinking about things like that as you're facing something as serious as life-threatening cancer, I mean, you have an incredible mind. You are, dare I say, you are content in this world as far as I can see. And that is an amazing place to be.
Oh.
Where do you want to take that? Sorry if I made that too heavy right at the top.
No, that was great, man. I just want to sit with that. It's wild. A friend of mine sent me that video, the Alan Watts retelling the Chinese fable. And he didn't even know what I was dealing with. And I hadn't told him. I wasn't ready to tell people, and he sent it to me just on account of some other thing going on. And it just really took me back. Because so I've got pancreatic cancer, which, I don't read the reports of odds and whatnot, but I know it's broadly pretty bleak. But yeah, I from the very beginning, when I got the diagnosis, I guess I was a little stoic about it. Maybe I didn't fully understand the gravity of it. But at no point did I think, well, shit, this is it. Anything like that. It was like, okay, what do I have to do? Where do I have to reach within myself to, find the strength and find the peace? Because I know that I know in my mind that stress creates alkalinity in the body and leads to disease. So what's the point in getting stressed? I'm better off praying and meditating. And that opened up, oh my God, like it opened up so much for me. God, we can take this in so many directions. The maybe part, just to back up, a couple of weeks before I started getting this intense abdominal pain about 2 months ago. But 2 weeks before that, my oldest son, who is now 19, came to me He said, Dad, I have something to tell you. He said, I'm going to get married. He was 18. He had just graduated high school. He's moving to Tacoma with his fiance, his high school girlfriend, getting an apartment together. And he's starting the firefighter academy down there in Tacoma. And like the first impulse for me was, to do the dad thing and be like, or, what I would have thought my parents would have done, which is, are you crazy?
Smack them.
Yeah. Just, what are you talking about? You're getting married. But it was a moment. And then I just checked myself and I was like, with all the crazy shit going on in the world right now and the traps that are out there for young people growing up, trying to find their bearings and get a foothold in life, and he's getting married. That's beautiful. Like,
it really is.
Like an act of love between two people,
Marriage and an act of love is the most punk rock thing you can do.
Right?
It's punk rock and rebellion in
Yeah,
2023.
especially that young.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you want to rebel, start a family, man, and stick to it.
Yeah, dude, good job.
Thank you.
Good job as a dad, because that's the kind of stuff that I hope for my kids. They find their love early, marry, have kids, and just be prosperous. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we hope for our kids.
And he says that to me, like, Dad, I was, I'm the rebellious one. So I decided I was going to get married. I'm like, man, that was not my idea of rebellion. My parents, you got to get married. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to get on a motorcycle and ride.
As that makes me so happy to hear. I know with certainty that until like maybe 5 years ago, maybe not even 5 years ago, my reaction to anyone being 18 and saying they're getting married, I'd say, you're stupid. That's a bad idea. Don't do it. Like you need to go live with that person for a while. And you need to really weigh this out. Like, you're too young to really know what you want. But I was still also, I guess you could say, subscribing to the divorce culture that we have living around us as it is now. Whereas now it's like, I'm raising my boys that realistically, I would love it if they get married when they're 18. I'd love it if they got married and brought someone to our home to live with us and actually realistically build a house next to us on the same property, kind of a thing. I mean, that's my new American dream.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And the reason I brought that up in the context of maybe is because 2 weeks later, we're having this, crash wedding in the park, and there wasn't even guests outside of the immediate family. And of course, there's champagne, there's rich food, there's, way too much wine, and, we're having a good time. The next day, I'm hit with intense abdominal pain. And I'm pretty sure it was all that, celebration that kicked me over into finally getting these symptoms to present themselves. And I don't know what's going on. I'm just like walking through a supermarket trying to hold myself up on a shopping cart. Like, what is happening? And, just briefly, like, I went to my naturopath and she immediately had blood tests done, and they thought it was pancreatitis at first, and then more and more tests, CAT scans, the whole thing. And then I was diagnosed with cancer. And it's just the way one thing led to another. And then I hear about how, just the chances of being operable, I'm eligible for an operation, which is like really scary because it's a scary operation. But I happen to be close to Seattle, and I've been trying to get away from Seattle, but Seattle has like the top pancreatic cancer centers like in the country right here, this place that I've been really trying to get away from. And it's just like, you don't know, man. Everything's a paradox, and you don't know what the grand plan is. You just don't. Yeah. And so that led to a lot of what I wrote in that letter. It's just, I've just settled into a place inside of myself, and my heart's wide open right now.
That's so great. And, I think you've got, they say laughter is the best medicine. And really, I think that's true in a sense. It's not specifically laughter, but the laughter is an indication of contentment. The laughter is being stressed makes you sick, you know, like that's no doubt. I don't doubt that at all. I don't think any doctor even doubts that. But we tend to stress really hard. And the sicker we get, the more we stress.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to find a place within to genuinely be calm about this, I think you have it going in the right direction.
Well, check this out too. I can take this from a lot of directions, like that idea of stress leading to disease. It creates an acidic environment, and what is acidity but low pH? pH, I found out, is a measure of electrical charge.
Right.
And so an alkaline environment is a positively charged electrical environment. So if we're stressed and we're in acid state, we're low vibe, and that it's literally true.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now how do I deal with it? What are the things that I can do? And it's like immediately my diet changed. And it's like, what's alkaline? You know, just start researching what kind of foods can I be eating that are going to create a higher alkaline environment in my body.
Yeah.
And I'm raising my charge by doing that, which is anti-cancerous. It's also anti-inflammatory, all that stuff.
What without going on too long of the subject, what foods did that lead you to?
Well, immediately what I learned is that I had to get rid of fats. Like I've lost over 20 pounds in 2 months. That's been tough, man, because I didn't have a lot to lose. So my part of the malfunction of my pancreas right now, because it's a tumor near the head of the pancreas. The pancreas is involved with digestive juices and all that, to break down fats particularly. So I was in just a month of just severe like white light pain at night, especially when I laid down. I didn't know why. Well, I had to cut out fats, any like processed carbs, things like that. Sure. Any sugar, alcohol, mostly coffee, and then bringing in like super greens in a smoothie, low glycemic fruit. Berries are really good. Nuts, walnuts are really good. I'm on Chinese herbs that a friend of mine who's a naturopath has been assembling for me. I wish I had my list with me right now to tell you, but there's
that's good. Oh,
yeah,
that's good
and like broccolis, things like broccoli, cabbage juice. Broccoli is very anti-cancerous.
Bok choy, it's all got curcumin in it.
You're right, curcumin, nanocurcumin,
which is really, really good.
The nanocurcumin, supposedly your body's able to metabolize.
How would something readily. Like sauerkraut fit into that?
It's great. That stuff
I would imagine
great.
That's
fermented foods. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you know who Clive DeCarl is?
Yeah, I've heard him. I've heard him.
You should reach out to him.
Different shows.
He's got some crazy stories about different cures for cancer, like literally laughter. Like when Chud said laughter is the best medicine, he's got a story of a guy that laughed himself to health. He just like, dude was given like a really short period of time to live, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I'm just going to hang out. And he just watched movies, like funny movies in his apartment for like 6 months.
Wow.
And when he went back to the doctor, they were like, your cancer's gone, dude. Like,
I think the key to that particular,
but it was gone.
That particular regimen, the key is a funny movie, but without the potato chips.
Right. Yeah. You can't
have popcorn.
Right, popcorn. That's the appropriate one for a movie.
I mean, I'm doing all of the alternative stuff that I can get my hands.
Sure, on. I'm not. Yeah. I didn't mean to indicate that you weren't. But Clive Carl's
I'd like to hear, because I really appreciate you've mentioned naturopaths a couple times. I'm very, very interested by natural health. I am I'm not a huge fan. I'm just going to say this. I don't mean anything by it, but I'm not a fan of chemotherapy. Like I think that stuff seems bad. Now that said, I can tell that you almost certainly think that as well. But you've been led to you are getting chemotherapy. Is that
I'm starting.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm starting in 3 days.
In 3 days, so
Yeah.
close. Again, thank you so much for joining us. In spite of that, what how do you feel about it all? I just like to hear your thoughts on it.
I'll tell you what, man, anybody going through this, it's such a mind fuck, because I've got all my ideas too about natural and alternative, and versus we just went through 2-3 years of crazy with the pharmaceutical industry and the hospitals and all that. And I was like, no way am I going down that route immediately. But then you find out, well, I found out that you cannot mess around with pancreatic cancer. It can be very aggressive and move very quickly. And once it reaches a certain stage, like I'm stage 2, and the cancer is confined to the tumor, which is confined to the pancreas, it's operable, and they're going to use the chemo to shrink it down so that they can have the best chance of success with the operation. And I if I decided I was going to try these alternative approaches solely, I give and I guess wrong or what have you, like I just don't do exactly the right thing. That's, with the alternative treatments that's going to cure me, I would lose my window of opportunity to have the procedures done that I'm lined up for, right? It gets to it goes from stage 2 to stage 3 real quickly. Like if it leaves the tumor and enters the pancreas itself, you can't operate. They can only operate because it's confined to the tumor.
Because it can be removed from the pancreas as opposed to the pancreas.
Correct.
Yeah.
And right. And it hasn't entered my bloodstream. It hasn't entered the rest of the body. And so I'm really fortunate. So it's like maybe it's like when I first heard about this surgery, I'm like, that sounds like the worst procedure in the world. Like that sounds hellish.
Well, like realistically,
like, well, I'm lucky that I can have that.
And a lot of us that think about natural health, operation is like, you never want to have operation. You don't want to have part of your body removed. That's part of you. We shouldn't be removing ourselves, like whether it be the foreskin or whether it be a tumor inside of you. You don't want these things removed. You want to work with them. But I'm assuming you're talking to naturopaths all the way through.
I've got 2 naturopaths I've been working with. I have an integrative oncologist, which, by the way, folks, an integrative oncologist, if you are dealing with a situation like this, I wanted my oncologist to have conversations with me about all the alternative stuff, and they just won't. They have this term called standard of care, and they just like put up deflector shields.
Yeah.
And they won't even talk to you about it because it's not standard of care. You get an integrative oncologist, which will interface with your mainstream doctor. And that person is the one you're going to be able to talk to about bringing in herbs and I'm working with a Rife machine every other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've got a Rife machine. This one friend of mine, this one naturopath who's a really dear friend of mine, he's out in Ellensburg. He had a Rife machine because his brother got cancer. And he really is against chemo. So just all of the goodness of his heart, all of his energy pouring into like trying to steer me away from the chemo route and the surgery route. And so it can be a real mind fuck because people will have all sorts of suggestions, and you're going to hear from everybody about what their experience is.
Dude.
So you just have to, again, it's back to just being centered and use exercise discernment. Take all the information in, whether it's mainstream, alternative, everything in between, and just sit with it.
Yeah.
And where does it plug in?
Is a Rife machine like a Brown's gas machine or something?
It works with a plasma tube. I mean, it's like I would put them in the same category of Tesla technology kind of umbrella. but it works with a plasma tube. And Royal Raymond Rife in the 30s was dialing in different frequencies that would affect, different microorganisms, bacteria, parasites, cancer cells. And it's incredible technology. But it uses basically plasma and frequency, and then it sends those signals through your body, and you just sit in front of it, and man, I can feel the thing working.
Yeah, it's a frequency or a vibration that it moves through you, and hopefully kind of rearranges your cells. And is that a little too much to say rearranges?
Digestible.
Well, it makes it so that your body can purge it as a dead toxin.
Yeah.
So it'll supposedly kill the cancer cells, or there's frequencies just for other things like toxicity or kidney cleansing or liver cleansing. It's almost any ailment it has a frequency for, or several frequencies for. And so it's a little bit complicated, and I just really had to sit with it. The manual is 1,000 pages long, and it's like one of 3 manuals, so it's just like a lot to pour through. And last night I just found this passage in the big textbook that said, oh, by the way, if you are going to do chemo, be very careful when using this machine. You want to give it several days before and after the chemo treatment, because it makes your cells more open and porous. So that you'll want to tell this to your oncologist, so you dial down the chemo. But I'm afraid of having that conversation with my oncologist, because he might tell me, what are you doing with this thing? Stop it.
Right.
So
because the idea with them being too open is essentially the chemo is going to be putting poison through, right?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, and killing off everything that it can, while keeping you from dying yourself, like taking it as far, poisoning your cells as much as possible without letting it go too far.
And that's where I'm lucky that we've got access to some of the best cancer treatment in the world, really, in Seattle, because the guy that I'm his name is Vincent Picozzi. He's the oncologist, and he's like world renowned and in all the journals and stuff like that. So I'm really fortunate. I'm told over and over again that I'm really fortunate to have him. I can't have a conversation with him. He's like, he walks on air when he comes in the room, and he leaves with a, harumph. Like, so his bedside manner isn't all that, but apparently he's a wizard at dialing the chemo dials in such a way that it gives you the optimal opportunity to, keep your healthy cells and remain healthy and strong as possible while targeting the cancer. Most people that have pancreatic cancer are like above 65, in their 70s. They're dealing with a lot of comorbidities, obesity, alcoholism, just you name it. I don't fit the bill. So there's a big mystery, like why me? I don't know. They say this stuff can be incubating for 15, 20 years before it really presents itself. And I could talk all day about what was going on 15, 20 years ago in my life, like serious trauma,
lifestyle changes and things.
Oh man,
like 15 years is a long time,
dude. Like losing my job, the house market crash, the getting divorced. I had an aneurysm back then. Like I was going through it back then.
Sure.
So if it's trauma, because they do say that it could be caused by trauma.
Sure.
I mean, I to me, that's the only thing that makes sense. And that goes right back to, the stress leading to disease. So all of this, and kind of to take it back to my letter, it's like my body's talking to me. I got to change it up, man. I don't know how much longer I have here, but I plan on sticking around as long as possible and being here for my kids and their families as they continue into adulthood and start on their path. And so I just, and so I just know in my heart, and that's what I said in the letter. It's not even a belief. I just know it. I know in my heart that I'm going to get through this and I'm going to heal.
That's it, man.
Man, positive vibes is, placebos work for a reason, right?
Correct.
We have the ability to heal ourselves. Mm-hmm. So as much as you can set those intentions and put that positive energy inward, you know, it's only going to be beneficial.
So, I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said you're listening to your body.
Yeah.
I think that's something that that there's not a person on earth who shouldn't be listening to their body a little more than we are, if not a lot more. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, like the majority of you know, like low IQ pieces of shit they see everywhere you go, they can't even hear their body. Their frequencies, they're tuned into too many other things to even begin to ask themselves if the flaming hot Cheetos are good or not good for their body.
Well, look at what they did to us, you know, just a couple, 2-3 years ago. It's like, come and get your shot. And if you do, you'll get this cheeseburger or Krispy Kreme donuts.
Or it's like a freaking donut.
Right.
What do you,
or a beer. They were doing it here at microbreweries.
Are you like, this is madness. And you talk about placebo. The opposite of that is actually a known phenomena called the nocebo. If you tell people they're sick, they're going to get sick. And that's what they were doing for 2 or 3 years, telling people that they're going to get sick if you visit grandma or you're going to kill. Well,
they also tried the placebo within that of that. And if you take this, then you won't get sick. But yet people still did.
How'd that work
They
out?
still continued to go and get that shot.
Yeah.
And my son, I've watched my son make himself sick and like stress himself out or whatever. And then he's sick for a day. Like, and he 100% did it to himself, you know. And so we have this ability. But I have kind of a statistical question. Have you looked into the cancer rate in your area? Maybe it's maybe there's a reason all of those cancer doctors are in that area, and it's because they're giving people cancer in that area, and it's a little test zone. Have you? Not, and I don't mean to be.
It's a good thing to look up.
I don't mean to be insensitive when I ask
it's quite okay.
Like that.
So. Yeah, no, I don't mind, because before this, again, in the last 2-3 years, all of a sudden there's 5G towers. They got them in the park where the kids play soccer. They got it in the high school stadium where you get thousands of kids gathering for these, you know, football games and whatnot, and like. You know, in this military
find
grade.
Find me a school without a cell tower.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't exist anymore.
And so, you know, wires, I mean, so many people are getting cancer now, like fast acting cancer and so forth. And this is really, like, I was concerned about it before, but this is really, you know,
I've seen a lot of kidney treatment places popping up recently too. Like that never existed before. You didn't have just like a kidney only treatment place, and now they're everywhere.
And that's for dialysis,
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're also dealing with
assume something like that, but yeah, there's just tons of kidney treatment places down here.
We're also dealing with increases of heart problems, strokes. I mean, I know for my personal family, everyone over a certain age who got a certain injection, every one of them have had either a heart attack or a stroke or some kind of episode that they're all just, oh, well, it's just because we're all getting old. It's like, yeah, but every one of you were healthy. Every one of you, with one exception. And she was a lung cancer survivor. And guess what? Came back after 20 years of not smoking.
Wow. So yeah, and it gets, and so that's where the mind game, and it's really a heart and a spirit game, it comes in, because it's so easy to look at all of that and just get down and grim, and because it can be dark, like if you really look at it squarely. But you know, they say if you stare into the abyss will stare back. And so for me, and especially like what's going on in the news nowadays, oh my God, I have to be really mindful and really practice this. And I fuck up all the time, and I'm like, well, I'll just like doom scroll zero hedge headlines just a little, and then all of a sudden I realized, like, oh, my vibration, like I just feel like shit right now. I'm 5 minutes into this. And so I have to just stop and like put it down, like, okay, come back to it. Just keep coming back to it. keep coming back to my own center, and like just this kind of like I found out recently something that really clicked, this idea that compassion is shared suffering, which is such an interesting idea. It's like, well, I feel so bad, and my heart's breaking for and it's true, like it's horrible, the suffering that's going on. But this idea that it's this place of compassion, it's like I'm sharing their suffering. I'm not helping them. I'm just I'm allowing my own mind and body to be pulled down.
Yeah, you're spreading the suffering.
Anybody. You're spreading the suffering.
The compassion doesn't shrink that at all. It only expands that suffering.
Right. And so there's got to be something else more related to empathy. You can experience empathy and not get sucked in. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think for me, that's a switch that I'm still working with. And this, I guess what I'm going through right now is like the greatest lesson of all.
Maybe.
Well, if you look at empathy versus sympathy, sympathy being you feel what they feel, or you have felt what they felt. I think I'm getting this right. Versus empathy is you haven't felt it, but you're taking it in to understand what they're feeling.
Right.
And compassion, it seems like if you're going to feel that suffering, whether or not you've been through the suffering, if you're taking that suffering in and actually feeling it, that's different than empathy, where you're understanding the feeling that someone else is going through. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's
like
all.
This idea of cutting hair, like people cutting hair because I might lose my hair. I'm like, I don't want to cut their hair. Grow your hair long, man. Why are you going
to? Oh, like all your friends.
Yeah. Like, don't do that.
You'll come on Monday Night Master Debaters in a little while. Everybody's got a shaved head just to show you.
Don't do that, Matt. Dude, I'll tell you what, Matt Trillian he's awesome, man. That guy,
he really is.
He walks the walk. He's been such a brother, such a friend through this. I shout out to you, Matt. Like, thank you. He's just put himself out there for me in such a big way. He really
he's been spreading your GoFundMe around. I'll be sure to link that in the description of this too.
Thank you. That's another thing. Like, I didn't want anything to do with the GoFundMe. My sister, bless her heart, Mary Carol, she lives out in Ireland with my dad. She started that up, and I'm like, don't do that. I guess it's a pride thing. It's a generation thing. Like, I've been working since I was 12. Like, I'm not used to asking people for stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't, if I didn't work for it, I didn't earn it. Mm-hmm. And I really had to humble myself, because for one, I'm a sole proprietor. Like, I'm an architect. I work in my own home office. I don't have employees. Once I can't work for a little while after the surgery, or depending on how the chemo goes, I'm going to need the help to pay the mortgage and all that. So I had to like put that in the forefront, way ahead of my own, pride or what have you. And the other thing is that people want to help. People want to, they want to support, they want to share, they want to give. And I'm having to learn, or I've had to learn to accept and to receive. And that can be a really humbling experience.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to humble yourself to see that that's useful to you. I know when I read your GoFundMe, it meant the world to me. Not the actual GoFundMe, but the words that your sister had written there. Because I had no idea, and I'm sending you clips of Scooby-Doo. I mean, like, hey man, look they're talking about underground Seattle in the 70s on Scooby-Doo. Check this
out. Which made me laugh, so it was anti-cancerous. So thanks, man.
So that's great. I'm glad I can help like that. But the response is, yeah, man, I got cancer. It wasn't quite that that blatant, but no, yeah, cool, that's cool. But I got cancer, and I'm gonna say it. I felt bad for you for a minute there. Like I was feeling bad for you. I don't usually use that term, but it works for this situation. It wasn't the way I thought it out, but oh no, that's a horrible situation. I hope the guy's all right. It was kind of somewhere along my thought pattern. But then I read that GoFundMe and I said, awesome, Matthew's going to be okay. Because I could see from her words in that, not just her words, but her words about your family as a whole, and your support network, and your wife and your children, and all the people that are around you. I was like, I suddenly knew with certainty how much love you were able to surround yourself with. And that's I think the key, right next to laughter, of being able to be okay through literally anything. And I mean, I knew that you're a father. I knew some things about you, but it also could be that you're a divorced father and that you live by yourself and that you're constantly traveling, and and that wouldn't I would feel bad for you if you were in that situation, if you had no one. But to see how many people you had filled my heart with joy and contentment, to know that you had that. And then again, reading the letter that you sent out, push that so much further, which is maybe we'll use this to kind of segue that you want to talk a little bit about homesteading and things, because I know that you've got some things in your life that give you life outside of work and outside of family. I mean, these things all combine within each other.
Yeah.
But what are your ambitions for as you get better?
Oh boy. I'll just say one more piece to kind of put the exclamation point at the end of that last bit. I didn't know how many people I had. Before that, the GoFundMe was a big part of it. And just the amount of people that have reached out to support me. I think because of the last few years, I was in such like a cloistered mindset, like, I'm going to go out on my piece of land, which I'll tell you about. And I'm going to just isolate myself, and I'm going to bring my family. If I can get my kids to come out there with me, like, I got to get away from Seattle. This is madness. What's going on here? And I was just pushing a lot out of my sphere of awareness, and a lot of people from my past I was just frustrated with. They didn't think about things the same way I did. I was just done with. And then this happened, and then just this outpouring. And again, just to put the period at the end of the sentence, like this outpouring of support and love, very humbling, very, very humbling, and just beautiful. And I just have gotten to the point where I feel like the healing journey that I'm on is really a sacred path, man. With all of the love and support that I'm receiving from so many directions, it's just become and somebody put it really great, just let it flow, let the love flow.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's just like, get out of, just stepping out of my own way. That said, my aspirations are to ultimately heal and get out of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I have a piece of land out in the Columbia River Gorge, which is a 4.5, 5-hour drive from here. So we don't get there as often as we'd like, but it's there, and it's awesome, man. The land is so powerful out there. It's so beautiful. We can see Mount Hood in Oregon.
Okay. Yeah.
From our perch. And every time I'm there, I'm just like, I don't ever want to leave. There's nowhere else I want to be.
Yeah.
What's
the terrain like there? Is it green or is it desert?
You want to see some pictures?
I'd love to, but this is an audio only podcast.
This is audio only?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll show you guys.
For us.
It's not for us, and we can describe what we're looking at.
Sorry, folks.
I listen to visual podcasts all the time.
Go to my GoFundMe and I'll have photos up. No, it's good.
Right.
Let's see. My host disabled participant screen sharing. I think you got to let me share.
Oh screen. Yeah, I'm sure I got that here somewhere.
We have the technology, but it's desert like, and it is also very green. It's it's just east of the Cascades. It's in Lyle, or it's up the Columbia River from Lyle, which is past White Salmon on the map. And so it's where the terrain starts to get more desert-like, but it's still plenty of green. And it just makes for a very intense landscape. And it's nice and dry because I've just about had it with the Northwest compost.
The opposite, man. I'm ready for like that yurt that's behind you.
Where are
That's
you?
the life I'm ready for.
Where are you at, Bob?
I'm just north of Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Kind of out in the country. Like I try to live as much away from people as possible.
So you don't get into Houston too much then, huh?
I work in Houston.
Oh, you do?
Houston
okay.
a
All
lot.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, unfortunately. I have to go there all the time, and it's terrible, man. I would give my freaking right foot to be able to work from home, man. Like but you know, I'd probably get antsy.
Mhm.
I'm just an outside working guy. I've been doing it since I was a kid, like it's that maybe thing, right? Like,
Right.
Maybe.
would I be happier at home with a job? Maybe.
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 You got that screen share ability there yet?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to work in the field for years and years. I worked in the field and, built houses and remodels and the whole thing. And yeah, about 10, 12 years ago, I hung up my tool belt and just started designing full time. But I have a background in architecture. I have a degree and the whole thing. This is the land.
Dude, this is beautiful. I see Mount Hood way back there behind trees. You got an open field where you're at.
This field is 4.5 acres.
Okay.
Nice.
And then there's a tree line. You go down below the tree line, and then there's a whole nother patch down there, which looks like, rocks just rained down from Mars or Mount Hood 10,000 years ago, and they're still there.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
Hell yeah.
I love it. That's great. When you first said the gorge area, Columbia Gorge, I start thinking of a lot of Washington looks so desertous, but this looks like something you could really work with.
So right before all this, in the late summer, I went out there with my youngest son, Martine, and spent a long weekend. And this friend, who, by the way, Jeff Lippincott from Ellensburg, he's my naturopath.
Oh, cool.
And, sweet.
He had this army tent. He's like, hey, do you want an army tent for the land? I'm like, hell yeah. So I designed this big ass 28-foot long deck with a roof that I haven't finished the roof, but we set up the army tent on the deck and underneath this roof structure. So it's just sitting there waiting for me to get back out there.
Oh, that's so great. That's so beautiful.
And the idea is, we make it a retreat for now, and we get to enjoy it. And yeah. I honestly, I keep thinking like, this is where I need to go to heal. If I could just be out there and just be away from all the, the mayhem and the Wi-Fi and the EMF frequencies, and just watch wild turkey and deer and, sunsets and shooting stars, I'd be content. I mean, that would really be the content life for me.
And that's what you would need to heal.
That's a good healing spot right there.
Right. You can just feel it. Yeah.
That's where you're going to get the sunrise and moonrise and sets and the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I think that those things, referring back to my story from the beginning of this, like that is, I think that watching a sunrise is going to do more to heal you than just about anything. Well, especially after major treatment like you're going to be going through.
Yes, and I completely agree, because there's the chemo, there's the surgery, there's more chemo. This is going to be going on until late spring. But they say with especially with pancreatic cancer, the recidivism is what gets people. It sneaks back and then the tumor reforms. So you have a 5-year window where you really have to be careful. So I'm going to continue with some variation of the diet and what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
all the supplements for the next 5 years till I'm really clear. But yeah, just being in a healing environment is just going to be a huge piece of it. So I might have, I don't know, we're talking, the family's talking, maybe I have to go, or we have to go sooner than, my youngest son graduates high school in 5 years. Everything's up in the air right now. I mean, this has really just been a game changer. But,
and as well with all of that, there's a maybe.
And there's a maybe. And so, yeah. And so just sitting, heart-centered, sitting with it and just listening to my body, listening to God. And this whole experience has really brought me closer to just being okay with, like, I grew up Christian and then I did 20 years of atheism. And my wife just said to me yesterday, she's like, Matthew, I don't think you were ever really an atheist.
Right.
I don't buy it. And it's been experiences with psychedelics. I've done ayahuasca a few dozen times. Like I've just had too many experiences, too many like moon sets and sunrises where it's just so crystal clear that there's no way that just strict materialistic read of existence can explain what it is that we're doing here. There's something truly divine about life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I think that's undeniable. I heard someone recently talking about atheism. They're saying, so you believe that we all come from nothing. It all came from nothing, right? And then when you die, what happens to you? Nothing. Sounds an awful lot like being reunited with your creator.
Right.
It was like, oh, damn.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all the sacred text, everything and nothing. It's just a mirror of itself. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so the idea of everything fading to black and there'd be nothingness, I can understand why that would instill fear in somebody. Mm-hmm. But we don't know. There's no way. We don't know. I mean, we know that people have had near-death experiences often. There's a long record of people's NDEs, and many times they come back with this feeling of overwhelming love and that everything's okay.
Yeah, that's what I've gotten from those near-death experiences in the long run. Not so much the go into the light, the stuff that was all over the news, what was that, 30 years ago, but that people come back with a feeling. It's a feeling. Mm-hmm. It's not something that can be used. They can't use words to describe it. And that feeling is usually love. It's never a negative feeling.
Right.
If they don't quantify it as love, it's something positive.
Right. So, yeah. And so as far as that goes, and I don't want to keep going on about the cancer bit, but like, I'm not afraid ultimately. Whatever happens. I'm not afraid for myself. I want to keep living. I want to be here for my kids. It would break my heart if, for them, but I'm at peace with it.
So tell me then, when you pull through, because I know you will, what do you want to do out here? You want to raise chickens? Do you want to raise four-legged animals?
Well, we got chickens already. I should show you my in our audio only podcast, I should show you my chicken coop photos. But first, I'm going to show you my tiny house photos.
Oh, I'd love to see.
Because this is what I want to do. It's sitting out in my driveway. This is my house, which I remodeled. This took me 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. And this house was such a mess when we moved in. But so I bought this trailer that was designed for tiny houses. It was built by, Iron Eagle Trailers, shout out, down outside Portland, Oregon. Okay. And so I brought it home and I just started, and this was last summer. And I knew, first of all, 3 boys, 2 bedrooms for them. And they were too big to be in bunk beds anymore. Yeah. So I'm like, I need to solve this. And I didn't want to go through an addition project and deal with the city. Plus, I wanted to be able to have a structure on the land someday. So I thought, damn it, I'm just going to build a tiny house. Yeah. So I spent months last summer just, plugging away at this thing. And
that's awesome, man. Making it happen right there on a trailer bed. And that trailer bed, that Iron Eagle, those are designed specifically to put a structure onto. That's so great.
Yeah. And so now it's done. My kid was able to spend my oldest son, Jacob, he was able to spend his senior year of high school living in the tiny house there.
Oh, hell yeah. That's every kid's dream right there,
right?
Like,
yeah, it was the time of his life. and he had his friends
it's my own
over.
pad. You want to come back to my pad?
Yeah. So he had his, a little taste of independence.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's out there. And so my dream currently is to get this thing wheeled out to the land.
Then you got a place
we'll
to
have
be.
the tent on the platform, and we'll have the tiny house. And now we've got a setup.
Yeah.
To retreat to. And then, man, if shit hits fan sooner than we hope, well, I still have the means to get this out there and start living.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the main idea at this point.
And
that's so great.
We'll bring our chickens. We started out with 6. One of them turned out to be a rooster, so he's still in the freezer. My wife won't eat him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
it's funny how I've come so far. Now I have a hard time eating a chicken that I didn't raise.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's at one point I still to this day I say a prayer for every chicken I take the life of. But at first it seemed a little weird when I was eating those, when even more so hacking up and cooking and things like that. But now I've gotten to the point where when I eat chicken that someone else provides for me, I always appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, but there's a certain level of, I don't know this guy. I don't know what this was. The chicken itself.
That's so interesting.
Which is why, I try to get 50 in my freezer a year, because then we can have a chicken a week. And
so you're raising chickens in at scale. Sounds like.
Not at scale. No, we're raising. We try to do 225 runs of meat birds in a year.
All right. Well, I'll show you what I'm doing, man. I built a scrap wood chicken palace, I call it. This was all just like piles of wood that were laying around my site that I wanted to use up, and so I just let the wood decide some of what it wanted to be, and I ended up. This was my first time with chickens, but I think we did okay.
Dude, you've got your shit together so much more than me. For people listening, yeah, this is a very well designed chicken coop that you've got here. I have no engineering ability. I mean, well, that's not true. I engineer stuff all the time, but I do it by grabbing a piece of wood and hammering it to another piece of wood, and then looking at those two and figuring out where the next one goes. And I just kind of piece stuff together. This looks like you knew what pitch that roof was going to be at before it went up.
I sketched it out. Yeah, I'll admit I sketched it out first.
Yeah, this is amazing. I would love it if you came to my place and built me a chicken coop. Dude, not because I need something better. Man. Well, but I'm going to be honest about mine. Like I love them. I love all of the construction that I do out here, even though it looks ragtag. I look like I don't know what I'm doing, and it's largely because I don't know what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, I make it all work, and I continue to work with everything. So if it wasn't right on day 1, it's right by year 4, at least.
Well, you learn by doing, and that's been my biggest. That's the breakthrough with gardening. I started 3 years ago. Now we're raising chickens, and we're down to 4. We lost one to being a rooster. We lost another one to a Cooper's hawk. And till I figured out I needed to put a net on top of the run, because I built a run out here along an extended run.
Yeah.
And I saw that bird come in several times, and I always was able to get out the back door and just shoo it away before the damage was done. Then one day I came home, and one of these guys was just a pile of feathers. But they only eat the brains, which is weird. Like they left the whole bird alone, except they just plucked out the eyeballs and ate the brains. I'm like, really?
What a jerk.
Yeah, what a jerk, man.
You know who are the worst predators for chickens, from my experience, as far as the way they do it? It's raccoons.
Oh, yeah.
They're serial killers. They don't even eat them.
They don't eat them.
They'll just kill them. They'll kill 3 of them in one night and leave all 3 carcasses there. And it's like, you assholes. At least because I lose them to like coyotes on occasion. And at least I know that those wild coyotes are getting a good meal. There's something about me that I can, I'm not like it's not like I don't give a shit that I lost a chicken, but there's something that I feel okay about it within that situation. But when those raccoons do it, it's just, they're just leaving a mess for me to clean up, which is in front of their family.
Right.
There's 30 hens in there. They take out 3 of them and just leave them on the floor.
Gratuitous trauma and horror.
Yeah. No, nothing good comes from that. Well, because I'm not eating the meat at that point or anything.
Right. You can't.
It's all just getting buried.
But it sounds, man, I mean, if you're running, what is it? You said you had two runs of 20, a couple of dozen each or something like that. Yeah. You know what you're doing, man. I mean, I get into the design just because that's what I like doing. So I'm going to make it a chicken palace, but they don't need all this.
Oh no, they don't.
I just have fun with it.
That's you have fun with it. And then they have fun with that.
Yeah.
Like that's a beautiful place for a chicken to live. And especially if you got a run coming off of there, like you said, so they just have that much more room. Oh, that's so great.
And I'm going to keep this, man. I'm going to take this out to the land too. I don't know how I'm going to do it. If I have to chop it up into 3 parts, but I'm going to take this with me.
That looks doable.
And I've started building my chicken coops with the advanced knowledge that I'm going to disassemble it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Make it to where I can disassemble them in like sections, and then you can reassemble it wherever you want.
Good. So do you?
I haven't perfected it yet, but
do you? Sounds like you plan on getting out further into some land too.
Yeah, eventually, man. I'd like to. I've got to move a little bit closer to the nasty city for a little while, but the intent is to eventually be out like on lots of land. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
20 acres, because in Texas, if you have 10 acres, you can hunt on your own land.
Yeah, I think it's 6 out here, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I'd like to be able to hunt on my own land. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. That takes things to a new level.
Yeah.
I believe. No. Hey, well, fellas, I hate to wrap up because I feel like we could do another hour.
Easy.
But we got started a little late, and I've got some chores I got to do before it gets too late here. Matthew, again, I've probably said this too many times, and I don't want to make you feel weird by saying it, but I'm absolutely honored that you would come join us when you're so close to this treatment that you're about to go through. I'm going to be absolutely certain to put your GoFundMe up in the description for this, as well as I'll put an Instagram post out and put a link up in that too. You want to tell everyone where they can find your amazing videos that you put out?
Yeah, I do. And first, and I want to say, Chud and Moral Bob, like the honor's mine for really. I just to be able to just open up and talk about this with people who care. It means everything. And yeah, I'm starting this whole treatment thing in a few days. But doing something like this and having this as a reference point, even for myself, like to go back to return to, if things are hard in a couple months from now or something, I can look back on this and it'll be an amazing reference point and just reminder, that everything's going to be okay. And it's just, playing out according to some plan I might not be fully aware of, but it's, I'm in good hands. And with that, on YouTube, I have the Marvelous Old World podcast where I dive deep into the mystery of architectural history and old world architecture in America, specifically in the Seattle area in the Northwest. And my architecture work is at dreamdesignbuild.org. And I'm on Instagram at Yurt Designs. And I'll be out there and take some time off for myself and just, months ahead. But
I don't want to hear from you for a little while after this now.
There won't be any I'll upload this and maybe 1 or 2 others, but
after a few days from now, I mean, I'm no doctor, right? I think that's well enough established here, but try to stay off the Wi-Fi and all of that as much as you can. I mean, I believe in a frequency level reason to stay away from those things, but also just for our mental, all of us, for our mental capacity to be at its top speed. We need to not be looking at the internet and our phones quite so much. And I think that if you can find that in yourself to be with yourself, be with your wife, be with your kids, and not have those things, that's going to help all that healing just as much as getting out to your acreage out there,
right,
in the long term of things on this. I think that would, I just wish you the best, man.
Thank you, brother. Thanks. Wise words. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, man, been a pleasure, man. Nice to meet you. Godspeed, man.
Thank
and I want to see you out on that land, dude.
Yeah, you'll come up and visit, man.
We need to make we need to do like a community road trip out there to help you finish that place.
Fantastic.
Like everybody come out and just
you can count on me being out there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would.
Awesome. That's the idea, man.
I had plans. I'm surprised that it hasn't happened, that we haven't met in real life yet, because it was last March. It was right around the equinox that I was really trying to hook up with you. I wanted to go just do the Seattle Underground tour with my son and meet up with you and possibly have you come down there with us, because you have such a vast amount of knowledge, which is one of the videos I would recommend to listeners from your channel, is your Underground Seattle videos. They're just so fascinating.
Well, we should return to that at some point. We should actually like put a bookmark there and make it an intention, and then return to the comment section on that video, because there were so many amazing comments about, hey, you should go into this bar and like walk through the second stall in the men's room, and there's a secret doorway and you can get into the underground, like all sorts of wild ideas on how to
I have a new way of how I want to go to the Seattle Underground then, because I thought I had to go through that museum door.
No, that's just one, they commercialized it in a sense. Made it into an event, but no, there's lots of ways, because it was the whole downtown.
Right. Yeah, so I want to do that with you, but I also love to check out your land. I'd love to see where you're at now. I'd love for our lives to become more intertwined.
Let's hook it up, brother. Absolutely.
As you heal, you'll stay in touch, and we'll figure it all out.
Indeed.
All right, with that, I bid you adieu.